Hello, this is Spencer McGrill, reading again from Colin Flaherty's What Girl Bleeds a Lot. This is chapter 15, New York has a whole lot of soul and racial violence. If Chairman Amak, the alias for New York's video blogger Luke Ford, had his way, no one would know that mobs of black people are attacking and beating and robbing Jews in the New York area, or that they shout anti-Semitic epithets, or that they target Jews because they don't fight back, or that it has been going on for a while, and that even Al Sharpton got into it. Al Sharpton targeted Jews? Such information can only serve to heighten racial tensions between these two groups, said Almack. Let us look beyond the issue of race, and in event, at least they're acknowledging Jews are a race, in any event a mere social construct, and instead celebrate our diversity. The New York Post saw a pattern that most of other media outlets never see or want to see. To some, it was jarring. A June headline about a series of anti-Semitic attacks read anti-Jewish crime wave. Post reporters wrote, in the most disturbing instance, we see a mob of 6 black teenagers shouting dirty Jew and dirty kike, repeated bashing Mikhail Hochberg, 61, as he walked home from a temple in Sheepshead Bay. This was just one of several vicious black mob attacks perpetrated against the Jewish people in Brooklyn during 2011 and 2012. Orthodox Jews may bear a disproportionate amount of the violence that part of New York, but the mob violence in the area is not limited to Jews. In February 2011, 4 black people beat and robbed an Orthodox Jew in New York suburb of Moseley. They were charged with hate crimes after it was determined they targeted the victims based on his religion. News accounts did not mention the race of the attackers, but the video tells the whole story. In a 3-week period after Thanksgiving 2010, the same group of black people were charged in 3 separate episodes of targeting, beating, robbing members of the Orthodox community. One of the victims, Joel Winzenberg, spent 4 days in the hospital with broken bones and required surgery on his broken jaw and eye socket. Ford and others, such as MSNBC's news anchor Melissa Harris Perry, who said the media should not report news if it makes black people look bad, don't have to worry too much. Most racial crimes and violence from groups of black people in New York are not usually reported, not by the media anyway. But witnesses and others who now often find a way to drop a dime or a video or an internet post. Just a few days before the Winsburg beating, a group of students from a predominantly black school in a predominantly black New York neighborhood were evicted, quote-unquote, from a 9/11 memorial site in Manhattan after they carelessly hurled trash into its fountains. Callously hurled trash into its fountain. The vile vandals from the junior high school 292 in East New York treated the solemn memorial, its reflecting pools honoring nearly 3,000 people killed in the terror attacks, like a garbage dump. One of the students was found carrying ammunition. The story did not identify the race of the students, but the picture for the article featured a young white person looking over the fountains. People who posted comments on the story, many of whom said they lived near the school, identified the vandals as black, if only to defend them. The excuse me, the NYPD have destroyed enough black lives, said Black Chiante. I'd be willing to bet you didn't suggest jail for the little white suburban thugs who harassed the elderly bus matron to tears, which is a crime, by the way. Many of the commenters said the story should have identified the race of the miscreants, if only to protect the community from future mayhem. That was too much for the Brooklyn-born who said I was embarrassment to my fellow Americans who flaunt their racism so proudly. What did they do was offensive, but the conditions of where they grew up compared to the wealth of the Wall Street is also offensive. Deflect. New Yorkers continue to debate whether race had anything to do with the crime or whether it should be reported on the list of racially violent and lawless episodes that continue to grow. In May 2011, nearly 24 black people went on a rampage at Dunkin' Donuts, terrorizing employees and making off with sweets and drinks. The swarm mob attacked patrons, destroyed fixtures, and stole food, said the Daily Mail, which published a story with pictures A few months before, the same scenario unfolded at a New York Wendy's. A mob of black people were fighting and destroying property, and when it was over, a teenage employee was attacked and hospitalized with a concussion. Not just stealing food to feed their families, not just being baby andals. Also, like the episode before, the New York Fox affiliate removed the video of the attacks from its website. Who can you not offend, right? But not before Hip Hop News 24/7 posted it. Let's head over to Rochester, if for no other reason than they had some racial violence there, and no one writes about the city anymore. In 2011, city officials in Rochester, New York, had a great idea. Let's have a rib festival on Memorial Day. Waka go rock. More than 200 black people showed up, 8 rioted, and then left. 30 people were arrested, all black, 1 for assaulting police officers. As usual, the newspapers tell one story, the video tells another. The paper bent over backwards to avoid telling the race of the perpetrators, but the video clearly shows they were all black. And apparently, that wasn't the first time a local venue had to shut down because fights on Memorial Day, said the local paper. Seabreeze made it a policy to close on Memorial Day starting last year after rumors of violence. The city had an ongoing issue with crowds of youth at the Liberty Pole downtown. I think what you saw at the beach is what we've been seeing in many of our neighborhoods for 2 decades, said Black Councilman Eric Adam McFadden. Councilman Adam McFadden. It's just that you had a lot of people there who are not used to that culture and got to witness it personally. I dare you to explain to me what he means by the term that quote-unquote culture. Go ahead. I dare you. A culture of violence and lawlessness? According to the local ABC affiliate, WHAM 13, this has been ongoing in Rochester for a long time in several different parts of the city. As we keep encountering more places where more black officials say that violence never happens all the time, it gets more and more difficult to see how large the problem is. Other than that, it is very large. And when the media and officials do everything they can to downplay the events, it makes it harder to understand the news. They just throw in the usual comments from the store owners, victims, and clueless police and elected officials and call it a story. No one is suggesting that the race of every criminal should be reported in every story. But here's where we can start. When you hear an elected official, black or white, say that the crime of violence are just part of black quote-unquote culture, you don't have to argue with him or do much of anything. Just every minute or so, even at random, say, what do you mean by that? Then write down what the official said. And then every other Friday, pick up your paycheck. That's pretty much all there is to it. Jobs are hard. In June 2011, hundreds of black people rioted on the Bridgeton Beach, an annual event called Brooklyn Queens Day. 4 people were shot, 1 killed, according to the New York Post. The shooting didn't surprise neighbors who'd gotten used to the trouble on previous Brooklyn Queens days. These kids come not to swim. They come for turf fights, said Pat Singer, president of the Bridgeton Beach Neighborhood Association. It's a problem every year. It's really hard on businesses all day long. All you see are hundreds of teenagers. Of course, you're going to have problems. Well, there's not always have problems with hundreds of teenagers. This is a racial problem. Tee-hee. 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 In June 2011, a Bronx man said he was taunted for being white. Okay, not for being white. And was beaten by a black mob on a subway. Wow. Did we get this Brooklyn man's name, or is he too much of a pussy? No charges were filed, and the police refused to list it as a hate crime. Well, of course, he's not Jewish. Not Jew. He's not one of the chosen people. Near New York in July 2011, David Struckinsky of northern New Jersey came to the aid of his friends who was under attack from a group of 13 black people. What a guy. He was savagely beaten and hospitalized with a coma. In critical condition, 9 black people were arrested, including the mother of one of the suspects who was trying to smuggle him out of the area in the trunk of her car. Well, I mean, it's a good mom, right? Good mom. On Staten Island in December 2011, 2 police officers were hurt trying to control a mob of 50 black people attacking a single-family home. Firefighters finally dispersed the crowd with fire hoses. Water, no, our weakness. To get them away from the officers. Lots of pictures and videos show some of the action. On Memorial Day 2011, hundreds of black people created a quote-unquote riot in Long Beach, Nassau County. The local Fox affiliate removed the video coverage from its website, but witnesses to the event posted on the Long Beach Patch say the lawless behavior from mobs of black people was a regular feature in the life of Beachtown. I was fortunate enough to witness both incidents, said Kevin Spiegelman of the Patch. One on Friday, senior cut day, and the other yesterday. I would classify the people I saw over the weekend leaving garbage and vandalism in their wake as unsupervised, poorly raised teenagers. The group involved, see, you can be poorly raised, unsupervised, and you can be teenagers. You can identify age, not race. The group involved in the riot was overwhelmingly black. There you go. But to your point, does that mean all black youths are trollmakers? Why? God, say it. I don't, who cares? I watched 2 white kids vandalize one of the beaches on the boardwalk. Okay, fucking, no one cares. Someone consider that good news. Less than a year before, 5 black men were arrested and 2 officers were hurt after another riot at the beach town. The police had chased down a suspect into Long Beach house where he refused to come out, according to the Long Beach Press. When the door was finally open, the 2 other suspects attacked the officer. A large crowd gathered. A melee ensued. Many members of the crowd began participating in the melee, cursing and kicking and punching the police officers on the scene, the police said. In September 2011, 6 black men in North New Jersey beat up a man, robbed him, and left him unconscious in the streets. The victim was soon run over by a car. He was taken to a hospital where he died. In 2012, 12 black women taunted 2 teenage girls on a subway before hurling the girls off the subway, beating them, and stealing one of their phones. The local NBC affiliate did not disclose the race of the mob, but it did have to because the attack was videotaped. Videotape will save your life. It's hard to, and you think about this, like think about the news media trying so hard to cover this up, and the video, like independent journalists blowing things up before this, right? In the 90s, people talk about, crime being lower and stuff. Maybe that's true, but maybe we just didn't know about this stuff. Maybe this stuff was covered up. The level of control the media had over our lives back then was so much more, right? And we are very fortunate to live in a time where we now have independent journalists, and we can actually see reality for what it is. Or not 100% right, but a more accurate version of reality, more on-the-ground reporting. Like, look at the, right now, the Jews are kind of killing everyone in Gaza, and we can see the bodies of the children. We know that the Jewish-controlled media, we're not just listening to their narrative, right? We're seeing the actual footage of the violence that the Jews are perpetrating in Gaza. We see them mocking the dead. We see the there was a story where they arrested several Jewish rapists who were raping women that were prisoners of war, and then all the Jews celebrating when those rapists got released. So we have this footage, we have their faces, so we know, we have a more accurate understanding, something that the news won't report in America. In June 2012, 11 black people were arrested for rioting, fighting, and mayhem outside the Long Beach emergency room. The loud and disorderly crowd walked into Nassau University Medical Center in East Mattawan around midnight and tried to get into the emergency room while threatening the hospital staff. Okay? In June 2012, the papers were full of stories about a wave of violence, quote unquote. The severe attack is a new community swimming pool in Brooklyn. Cops and lifeguards were beaten and punched. Even the New York Times dipped its toe in, referring to the racially charged debates following the attacks and fights. Lots of fights. Is any of this worth it? Is any of this worth it? On Friday, teenagers scuffled with lifeguards who had ordered them to stop doing backflips into the pools. The pool closed early. On Monday, 2 police officers were injured by swimmers who also persisted in doing backflips. 3 men were arrested and charged with assault in the 2nd degree, inciting to riot, criminal nuisance, and menacing. 3 men were arrested, all black. My readers at WorldNetDaily.com and listeners at the WDLE radio station like to send emails and local reporters asking why they're not covering racial violence. When one asked Clem Richardson of the Daily News why he did not cover black mob violence, he wrote back, And you believe this? Kenneth W. Cohen, the assistant Long Island director of Newsday, wrote back, I don't cover NYC, and your site appears to dwell on racist coverage. Not interested. Ooh, it's racist. I'm just a good person. I'm so much better than you, Colin Flaherty. Maybe Kenneth didn't know 3 of the incidents were on Long Island. See, it's hard. You think you're bad at your job. Look at these people. I don't cover things that make black people look bad. When he does, maybe he will make him an associate editor. Since my reader receives these letters, several more incidents happened. In October 2012 in Brooklyn, black mobs attacked 2 Jewish people. On October 25th, 2012, a man hurrying home seeking shelter from Hurricane Sandy was set upon by a group of 5 black people. They knocked him out, robbed him, stepped on his head before walking away. A few days later, Hike Crown's news reports a young Jewish boy was attacked this evening while on his way home. The victim, a 10-year-old, was returning home from Yeshivish Eve, whatever, some Jewish thing, and approximately 8:15 p.m. he was accosted, that means yelled at, by a large group of black youths near the corner of Kingston Ave and Lefferson Ave. In March 2013, Brooklyn broke out into 2 riots over 3 nights because of what the protesters say was the racist killing of Kiki Gray. 2 plainclothes police officers shot Gray after he ignored their orders to stop and appear to reach for his waistband to pull out a gun. Kiki would never have pointed a gun. I lost my train of thought. Kiki would never point a gun at the cops, said his family and friends. He would never carry a gun. And if he did have a gun, he would never pull it on, the police officer said. He was not that kind of kid, said the family friend to an Associated Press. After all, Kiki was only 16 years old and some mother's son. Okay. Kiki had a record of at least 4 arrests for inciting a riot, flagrancy, and grand theft auto. God, what a good boy. He had just returned from a baby shower and was hanging out in front of a friend's house. When cops tried to question Kiki, he ran. Just don't answer their questions. When they were chasing him, Kiki pulled a .38 caliber handgun out of his belt, said police. Neighbors said that Kiki didn't have a gun and that they heard Kiki begging for mercy, telling the police not to shoot him anymore. Stay down or we'll shoot again, said one of the officers, according to the New York Times. Kiki died soon after. Then came the riot. These cops is ridiculous. They really are, said one neighbor to Pix News, P-I-X News. Running around shooting people's kids. They were just beating up on a boy for 51st Street. Now they come down here and they shoot somebody's child. Kiki was a good boy. In school, he was just doing his thing, said the same family member told Channel 12 News in Connecticut. And this is why 130 black people from Kiki's Brooklyn neighborhood had a candlelight vigil for him that devolved into an old-school race riot, violence a city councilman had not seen before. While chanting NYPD KKK, rioters tossed bottles, rocks, and trash cans at the police. They tried to break into small businesses specialized in African movies, but the owners were able to fight off the looters by locking themselves into their stores behind a rolling metal gate. The fire department had to cut them out later. It was like the end of the world, the video store owner told the New York Daily News. Many of the 130 people broke into a drugstore, trashed it, looted it, and tried to get the cash register. No luck there. They left after attacking the manager, employees, and security guards. They bashed a bottle over the head of a minister, stealing his iPhone. Well, what else are ministers good for? Before he was rushed to the emergency room. While several media outlets downplay the nature and extent of the violence, NBC called it a disorderly protest. See, endless excuses if the protesters are black. The Daily News carried the most complete account of the riot. The paper talked to Mary John, a woman who lived in the path of racial violence. People were standing on vehicles. I saw them take garbage from the sidewalks and throw it onto the streets. I saw someone take a TV and smash it in my neighbor's car. They were throwing rocks at cars. I said, "Oh God, what's going on here?" She continued. They were calling out, "Rest in peace, Kiki." I was shocked. A member of the New York City Council who represents the area said black people are upset for a lot of reasons, but no one is listening to them. A lot of anger here, said Councilman Jumaine Williams. Black people in New York City are unhappy at the city's stop and frisk policy. White people aren't happy with affirmative action and not having jobs. And that is why they rioted. Not just for Kiki, he said. Police officers shooting black men shooting black men is a problem that needs to be dealt with. If we want to ignore it, we're just going to have to it's going to keep happening, said the councilman. Right? Look at all these excuses they get. If white people did this, it would be racist KKK. Justice for Kimani Gray. Oh, that's the Kiki's full name. Kimani Gray is a Facebook page full of gauzy memories, accusations of racism, and calls for justice, as well as a Trayvon-like picture of the pre-adolescent Kiki from several years earlier. At 16, Kiki was younger than Trayvon Martin was when a neighborhood watch captain shot him last year in Florida, provoking a firestorm of protest. Unlike Trayvon, Kiki left some video. The videos show a different picture of Kiki. A violent, lawless Kiki that perhaps his family and friends did not know. A person known on violent videotapes as Sharpton. Oh, Chappelle. That is what he is known for in the Bloods, the Flatbush franchise, as well as the Street Gang. The Flatbush? Yeah, Flatbush franchise. One video from several months ago, Chappelle, a.k.a. Kiki, wearing the trademark bloodied hooded sweatshirt that identified him as a member of the gang of the 13-year-old member of the Dread Rivals Crips on the street. With a camera phone rolling, Kiki taunted the Crips and pulled off his necklace before stomping on the ground. Him and his friends slapped the Crip in the face before the boy went on his way. I guess he was just that kind of kid. At the protest riots, at least one politician was eager to tell the crowd, telling the police, was egging on the crowd, telling them that the police were causing racial violence. This, of course, does not count the entire city of Command all the time. Okay, that's all. Good evening, good night. Bye-bye.